Welcome back to the show. There's no telling where we'll go. So come and share a laugh on the Imp And Skizz podcast.
Well, welcome to the Imp And Skizz podcast. This is going to be episode number 1. This is just two lifelong friends, tons of experience, tons of things to talk about. Every episode's going to be a little bit different. What are we going to talk about today?
Today, we're going to start with why are we here?
Yeah.
How did we get here?
How'd this happen?
How'd this happen?
What
are we doing?
I don't. This is one of those things you're like floating on the ocean and you just like bump into an island. You're like, I guess I'm here now.
Yeah.
Like this is just, we have so many stories that lead up to this moment. And so that gets me excited for, what's after this moment.
Yeah.
Right? This is,
I don't know what's after this moment. We haven't really thought that far ahead.
No, we don't do
but,
that.
two lifelong friends, decades.
Yeah.
Right? We've been friends for decades. We're very different people and somehow still friends. And we've known each other since high school. So we've got lots of stories to tell, lots of experiences to share, opinions on stuff that we'll share. And we went from just being high school kids to now content creators.
Yep.
However the heck that happened. So and now we're doing a podcast and we don't know what we're doing.
We don't. We're giving. That's just sort of how we've just done our whole life.
Exactly.
We never really know. We have, and that's just it. We're gonna have, because we have so many stories. We'll talk about parenting. We can talk about music. We can talk about content creation. All these. I mean, the list of how many different shows we can talk about. It just goes. It goes and goes and goes. But I think about. I mean, if we just want to, I don't know how far back we want to journey, but it's kind of interesting when I think about
the day we met.
The day we met, man. Like this, so first of all, let's just be very clear that we are very different people. Yeah. We are. This is sort of a yin yang thing that we've always had.
Yeah.
And we're different ages too. We're not, I'm like 2 years older than you. I'm not that much older than you. Yeah. But what was it? I was senior? You were a sophomore?
You were, yeah. When we first met, I was a sophomore coming in. You were the
high school, by the way.
High school, right? High school. You were drumline, right?
Yeah.
So my girlfriend at the time, she was like, "Hey, I'm on this drumline, and they need a bass drum player, and you're a drummer, you're a decent drummer. You should come try out." And so I was like, "Okay, I got nothing better to do." It's high school, and so I give the drum instructor a call, and he goes, I'm like, "Hey, I wanna join the drumline." Do you remember what he said?
Yeah, he says, I can't say exactly what he said.
That's true. Yeah, we're gonna keep the show PG, by the way, people.
But he was pretty. It's not a club, man.
It's
you know
not
what I mean?
Club. Yeah, you don't just join. So I came in and I tried out, and I show up to tryouts, and there's this really fairly tall. I mean, for high school, pretty tall dude, really skinny, long hair, and just bossing everybody around. Just bossing everybody around, telling everybody. But the confidence this dude exuberated was fascinating, and that's how I met you.
That's how we
strolled in, and I joined. No, I tried out, and I made it, and it's history, man. Ever since then, we've known each other, and I came in not knowing much at all, and I was like, I reached out to you. I remember I was like, I need lessons.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
I was like, yes, I do. And that's what made it so interesting is that confidence you speak of. So first of all, the reason the instructor was able to speak to you that way was because we weren't just some drumline, right? Mm-hmm. That drumline had a history of being legitimately one of the best in the nation. And this is for high school. This is when it came to, we're from Arizona. And when it comes to Arizona, there was nobody who could touch us back in the day, back in like the earlier days, my earlier days of high school.
Let's not bring up any specific years.
We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
Let's not date ourselves right away.
Nobody could touch us. And when we were going to do any sort of competition, it was anybody who saw that we were there, their objective changed. It was, well, maybe we can get second place because we're not going to be able to touch them. And that's what it was in Arizona, right? So that's where that confidence came from. And it didn't come easy. It came from blood and sweat and all that. Yeah. What you didn't quite understand was that the instructor and I, we worked on the same lines, but the rest of the drum line, I mean, how much can change in 3 to 4 years? The work ethic of the kids back then was very, very different. And that's crazy to call them kids because I was a kid, but my goodness, it happened so fast. I'm like, what? Nobody wants to work anymore. But you were different. And so when you wanted lessons, I was like, yeah, of course. You know what I mean? And I remember when you're young, you want to be, when you're a young dude, you want to be, desirable. You want to be awesome and impressive. And when you see somebody that's a threat, there's a reason why, like in and like with gorillas, like they kill somebody who's an upcoming threat. I'm like, I have to kill this kid.
I didn't. Okay, this is, you know, we've, like I said, we've known each other over decades, and I've never heard you say you wanted to kill me when you first met me.
No, I didn't want to kill you, but I do remember being like, okay, I know exactly what's happening here. Is that this kid has a great mind. He has the same work ethic as I do, and he learns faster than I do. So I'm gonna give everything I can to him, and then I got to cut him loose when it's time for somebody else to take him on their week. And I was like, that day's gonna hurt. But it did not take you long to get to a space where I'm like, yeah, you're going to be the best one on this line. You know what I mean? And I moved on, and I graduated, and then it was fun to come back and take a peek at that. But I don't know, and I don't think you remember, like, your work ethic was just so natural to you. Now, this is not a show where I'm going to sit here trying to blow up your head.
I'm like, wait, you know, if you're watching on YouTube, you might be seeing me blush. But luckily, it's a podcast. So hopefully, most people don't see that. Man, it was impressive to come in and see somebody in your position. Just the thing that interests me most about you at the time was how you were able to just like really demand that respect, but at the same time you were finding ways to still be your kind of goofy character that you have. You know, one of my favorite stories to tell is, you know, it was marching band. We were in drumline, so we're in marching band, sort of. We're drummers, so it didn't really count. But
oh, okay. If you're in marching band,
I'm
you don't.
Kidding.
Yeah,
everybody knows I'm kidding. Okay, everybody knows I'm kidding. We were the cool kids of marching band. So we got to school early. Remember, it was like 5:30 in the morning, maybe 6 o'clock, and the band room was on the opposite side of where the football fields that we'd practice were, and so. You know, most of us, you know, scrubs would have to get our drums and walk all the way across the campus. Not Mr. Skizz here, because he was cool and had a car. So he would just load up his car with his drum, nobody else, just him, and drive all the way around to the other side of campus where the student parking lot was.
Yep.
And as I walk the half mile with my drum and get ready to get in line, I just hear this car come peeling into the parking lot, right? And I've never seen anybody been able to like peel out into a parking spot the way he could and still get like perfectly, you know, parked between the lines. And then of course he's, you know, you're a big Ace Ventura fan, or a big Jim Carrey fan, so you look out the window like a glove. And then it was time to work. You know, like, and then you just turned it on and it was time to work. And you had all the respect of the line. So like, yeah, those were the days where I was just like, I knew from the moment I met you that I wanted to hitch my wagon, you know, and be by your side for the rest of our lives.
That's good.
This got mushy really quick. Wow.
Well, all of that was by design. You know what I mean? It really was. Not that I was overthinking everything, but there was something to the fact of you pick up your drums, you walk, you do the grueling work, and I'm going to take the easy way because we're not the same. Like it had to kind of do that. And I was also like, I'm going to be gone soon. And whoever takes over, I need them to know there's a separation. Yeah. I remember feeling this, I wouldn't call it contention, but this kind of weird delta in regards to when it came to, I liked everybody on the drum line. Don't get me wrong. I liked them all. But with you, I wanted to be friends with you, but it wasn't going to happen. I wasn't going to allow it to happen. We can't be friends. That's just not that. You can't get special treatment. It's not the way it's going to work. So I just would always separate. It was the drum line, and then it was me. You know what I mean? It was I'm the caption head. You guys are over there. I get to do all this extra stuff. And then you're right. I wanted to show that I can, you know, peel my car out. I can make a joke, and I can come out and put on the switch, and we're done messing around. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And it was interesting because our instructor, we were at a competition one time, and there's something called pecking when you're kind of
you're drumming around. You're not supposed to be.
Yeah, you're not in. But we were supposed to be. Everybody's supposed to be warming up, but we're getting ready to actually start doing the official warm up. But people are just sort of getting their hands loose, and it's just chaos, absolute chaos. And I put on my drum, and I just went like, that's all I did, and everybody went boom, completely quiet and fell in line. And our instructor came over. He goes, that was amazing. Like he loved it so much. He's like, do you think you could do that again? I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. But we just had that amazing dynamic, man. So leaving was hard. Leaving was hard, and watching you guys you go.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm sure. But we didn't leave for long. We'll get into that. Yeah. You know, I don't know if we're gonna have time in this podcast to go all the way from the start to finish, but and tell all the stories. I don't think so. We can save a bunch for later. But I mean, we did have a point where we didn't let go of that life. We came back. You and I did as drum instructors. At the school together, and we did that was like the start of us really working together.
That was actually,
right?
I would venture that was arguably, well, I guess just a little bit before that was actually the start of our friendship. It was after you had graduated,
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was a couple years later that we had bumped into each other. If you remember this, I don't remember how did this happen.
I know the story.
How did we
Man. So this is very much butterfly effect type of thing. I always think of this.
Yeah.
So after high school, I went off to do drum corps. Just a small Division III drum corps. And so I was gone all summer drumming 10, 12 hours a day, every day. And when I came back from drum corps, my friend was like, hey, he'd seen how much better I'd gotten over the course of the summer. And he's like, dude, you got to show Skizz, like how much you've improved. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And so I looked you up. We gave you a call and said, hey, you want to get together and do some drumming? I don't know if it was for me to show off or what, but anyway,
it should be.
So show up at your place, and we were drumming for a bit and having a few sodas. And, so after a few rounds of sodas, I needed to use the restroom, and I took a stroll down the hallway of your place, and your bedroom was directly across the hall from the bathroom in this place that you were staying at the time.
Yeah.
And so as I went to decide whether I needed to take a right to go in the bathroom or look into your room to the left just to see what you had going on, I took a quick peek, and you had you weren't the cleanliest guy at the time.
I had a messy room. I'm clean now, but I was a kid.
Yeah, you were a teenager still, pretty much. So yeah, you had some clothes and stuff on the floor, and then I spotted this like book that was just partially sticking out from underneath like a shirt that you were wearing, and it just like I just saw just enough to tell that it said networking on it. Yeah. And it just so happened that the very next day I was planning on going to a community college to apply for a networking class, and I came back and I was like, are you into networking? Like, what's that book in your room about? And you're like, yeah, I was thinking about it. And I was like, oh, hey, I was going to go down to the community college and register for class tomorrow. So if you want to join me. And you're like, yeah, that might be a thing,
See, and I remember a little, just slightly the same story, but just slightly different in regards to, I thought that at that moment you were already registered.
No.
And I thought that you asked me, why do you have this book? Mm-hmm. And at the time I was working at Costco. I was 20 years old, and another reason I had a child. My life was in chaos, right? I had a baby, and my life was in chaos. So I was always just trying to keep up. Well, I had seen that book at Costco, and I bought it because I was kind of interested in it. That's why it was there. And you had said, why don't you come join this class with me? And I actually was like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's what I remember.
Oh, okay.
But
I thought you gave the classic. That might be a thing.
Yeah, that's something I developed later.
Okay.
But you could be right. But in any case, I was like, I remember thinking, no, I wasn't going to take a class. I just wanted to read the book. And it was the next day. I don't remember what time the class started, but it was the next day. And I ended up waking up early, and I was like, you know what? Sometimes you got to pull triggers. I'm going. So I just went to sign up. And this is where the story messes with me, because I swear I was in line. Yeah. But you called me. I didn't think cell phones existed back then. How did you call me? I'm confused.
We had cell phones.
Were they the Zach Morris big gray bricks?
They were flipped down and antenna pole. We had them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually already in line. I was getting towards the front actually, and I was like, let me just see. Let me just see if he changed his mind or if he decided, Yeah. Because I really wanted you to join me, and so I gave you a call, and I'm like, yo, hey, what'd you decide about registering for that networking class? I'm in line right now, and you're like, yeah, dude, I'm in the back. Turn around. And I turned around and you were back there, like, whoa, hey.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
See, what I remember is you called me, you said that, and I said, yeah, I'm in line, and I thought you said, oh my God, stay right there, I'm coming to you, and I thought that you were across the campus, but whatever, it's all similar energy, but the bottom line is you convinced me to give it a go, and then we were both pumped. I'm like, and I remember, this is gonna sound crazy, I remember being like, you know what, I can be friends with him now. I don't know what am I holding back for? Like, there still was this dynamic that I held on to for a long time, to where, you know what? And I never let go of it, dude. Let's just call it what it is. I still have this really protective vibe over you that I can't get rid of. And it's weird because sometimes, and there's this like, Freudian is definitely not the word, but there's like this,
whoa.
No, it's definitely not that, but no, there's a different version I'm blanking on, but I call you by my son's name more often than I should.
Wow.
And it happens, and I'll tell a story, and they're like, "Who are you talking about?" I'm like, "Oh, never mind." And hold on, and I'm like, "Not him," you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it just like happens. So I don't see myself as above you at all, but this whole like protective vibe, I just can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
I can't get rid of it.
The day we met, you were you know, I was the mentee, you were the mentor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, it makes sense that would like never go away even today, which is crazy.
It's nuts.
But yeah, that was a trip, man. You know, we went to that class and it was awful.
It was terrible. It was terrible.
It was so
and
bad.
this is nothing against community colleges. Nothing, right? Because what I've learned is that honestly, for the most part, I think it's like nighttime community classes are typically really good teachers because it's people that they're in the industry. Yeah. We didn't do the nighttime gig. No. We did the daytime classes and it was just awful. Yeah. It was awful. It was like this. They don't. These
that's how professors are. You get luck of the draw, you know.
So that's fair. That's a fair point.
Like we did have, you know, when we did end up going to the next college that we went to, we ended up with a fair share of teachers that were great and another fair share of teachers that were extremely awful.
Yeah.
So
yes, they were. Yeah. Some were great. So you're absolutely right. We got into that story. I mean, that you talk about the butterfly effect, right? We might as well. I don't have a problem saying the name of the university.
No,
you know, but
I've already said it out loud in streams and stuff.
Right. We used to go to we went to Barrow's a lot. We like Barrow's Pizza, and
as you can tell, if you're watching,
if you're watching
geez.
this is this sucks.
I'm gonna suck in for a while now.
Turn that monitor off. So but I was thinking about it because this was the thing is, dude, is that I was still going to school for film, right, at the time, because this has always been my passion. Content creation has always been my passion. But like I said, I mean, it got to a point where I was like, I was taking an exam in one of my courses, one of my film courses, and my son was walking about the room, right? And I remember seeing his little head bob, and the class loved him, the teachers loved him, and he was very well behaved. It wasn't like there was a problem. But I remember looking and seeing his little head, you know, bopping about behind the tables and stuff as I was taking an exam. It was that moment I was like, I need to wake up now. I remember that moment. Like, I think I was like, this is ridiculous. What am I doing? And that's when I was like, my brother went to DeVry and he got a good job. And I was like, I'm going to DeVry. That's it. I've been working at Costco long enough. And whatever I'm doing here, spinning in circles at this community college, I'm spinning my wheels. I'm going to DeVry. And I pitched the idea to you. And I think you were registered at NAU at the time.
No, that'd have been after. It'd have been after. I'd come home. We'd done the networking class after I'd come home from Drum Corps, which is after NAU. But,
right.
I think we had finished. Maybe we had just finished like our last day of community college or something.
Oh, maybe that's it. Yeah.
And we drove home. You were actually staying at my place at the time, or my parents' house, really.
Yeah.
You know, we both lived at my parents' house for a while in college. So
I paid rent.
Yeah. It was preloading. But yeah, we drove home and we were in the driveway. I remember this like it was yesterday. We were in the driveway and it was lunchtime. And so we'd pulled in. We didn't even like go inside for whatever. Like we just got there. We just stayed in the car. And, you know, it was like, hungry, hungy dungy wungy chunky monkey, as you like to say. And okay, sure. And you're like, but I have this other idea.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this DeVry place. So maybe we check it out. And I remember you saying, you know, left hand, Barrow's Pizza, right hand, DeVry. And we kind of stared at each other for a minute and we said, DeVry, let's go do it.
Yeah.
And then we did.
We did.
Like that was it. Like we went, we took the tour. And that was it. We pulled the trigger.
It was interesting because I had arguably much more reason to be in a hurry than you did, just because of, you know, having a kid, and I was older than you and all that. Mm-hmm. But we were still on the same page of, I don't really want to mess around with college anymore. Right. I want to get it done. I want it behind me. And that's what DeVry was. It was 3 straight years through the summer and no stop. It was and that's what appealed to me. Yeah. And so now we're on to the next chapter where now we're going to the university together. Yeah. It's crazy, man.
Yep. From high school to university, and then the whole time, obviously, your life was a little more difficult than mine because you had, like you mentioned, you had your son at a very young age, and I think even during college, you ended up having your second child, right? While we were still at DeVry, so you had two kids to take care of.
Yep.
I was just the butterfly effect again happened because if we had not chose that decision right then, if we went and had pizza instead of going to DeVry, I would not have met my wife.
Right.
And had my beautiful children.
Yes.
As well. So, all these things have just come together in just like the perfect harmony. And DeVry was interesting.
Yeah.
Like, that was what, like I said, I mean, like we had some teachers straight away that were just amazing. Remember, we had an amazing psychology teacher. amazing.
Math.
Our first programming language we had to learn was like
VB, dude.
VB.
He was good.
.net, and he was awesome. I think his name was. We'll leave names.
Yeah,
out.
leave names out.
But anyway, he was good with names. You remember that? He taught us how to, because I'm so bad at remembering names, and he gave us a way to, like, oh, if their name is this, then picture this, and then you put that together. You'll never forget. Yeah, mnemonics. And I was like, yeah, that's a really cool thing. I've tried to do that ever since. I'm still not great at it, but that experience was very interesting. I remember we used to carpool, and like you were working so hard between that and still having a job and the family and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And there were days when it was my turn to drive, and I would come over and there was just no answer at the door.
Yeah.
No answer on the phone. And I would literally break into your house.
Yes.
And find you sleeping in bed still when it was time
so
for us
tired.
to leave.
I wasn't partying. I was just working so much.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've had kids, and so, but you know what it is like. I mean, we kind of like popped over a little bit. So I'd gotten married at this time, and my first son, I'm okay. So right now I'm married to my wife, who's the mother of both my kids. And the first one, obviously we were very young. We weren't married. And the second one, we had gotten married and all that. And so it was still, the second one was still very young. And I was just like, it was like, I was on fumes. Like, I wonder, how do people do it today?
Right.
You know what I mean? It was just, how did I have the strength to do that? But you would, like you said, come pick me up, and you're ringing the doorbell, and I'm just totally out. And I remember one time, because I was home alone because everybody else, gone to school or whatever. And it was still relatively early, but you had just had it. And you came in to my bedroom and you grabbed the sheet and just ripped it off me. And you said, I'm so glad you have clothes on under there.
My gosh.
And you just ripped it off and you said, get up. And then I looked up and I felt so bad. I'm like, I'm sorry. But I remember thinking, not a lot of people would have done that. You know what I mean? I was like, well, that was pretty cool of him. But how do I get myself to wake up? I was just so
that was
tired.
one of those moments. Sometimes you do something and then you realize how bad it could have been.
Yeah.
And after I'd pulled that sheet back, I was like, oh, that could have been bad. That could have been really bad. I didn't think of that before I pulled it. So yeah, thank you for wearing clothes to bed.
I always do. Yeah, I remember feeling grateful too. But we, that was that whole the DeVry train was kind of a blur. We kind of jammed through it, and in the process of that, that's when we got to experience. In my opinion, even though we worked well at DeVry together, in my opinion, there's another whole in parallel chapter where we taught together. That was during the DeVry period, where you had actually gone back to the high school that we went to, and you were instructing the drum line there, which was just amazing. And you had just gotten done doing, so drum theater is an actual thing, right? DCI's Drum Corps International. And there's what
WGI.
WGI is Winter Guard International, and that's that. And so you had written a show for them, and you had done it. It was a great show, and then you were talking about doing it again. Yeah. And I pitched an idea to you for the next one, and it was amazing, dude, because I had this whole idea about, we're not going to go into the details, irrelevant, but I had what I think was a good idea for a drum theater show, and I pitched it to you. And I remember you were listening so intently. sometimes you're talking to somebody, you just know they're not listening. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do it too.
My wife knows that really well.
Everybody does it. There's 3 levels. They're either not listening and you know it, or they're listening and they're there, or they're zoned in. They're listening. They are hanging on every word. You were the 3rd level. You were listening, and I got through the whole thing, and you didn't even make eye contact with me. You were just like staring at the carpet as I told the whole thing, and then you made eye contact, and you said, "That's the show we're doing, and I want you to come and do it." Yeah. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool, And so we worked together and made that show, and it was just, to this day, it's like top 5 of like the things I'm most proud of. That show.
Yeah, me too.
It was amazing what we did.
It was a lot of work. It was really awesome, and that's when we did a lot of things together, obviously, as we spoke about up until this point. But like that's when we really started to see how our relationship was yin and yang. Yeah. How you were very much like you were you'd gone to school for film and stuff, and your brain was very in that creative space, and how things are supposed to tell a story and look and feel and exuberate emotions from people and things like that. And I was very much more like the logical engineer, like how are we going to the logistics of who's going to reserve the time in the gym and all that kind of stuff, right? And so I was kind of like that guy that made sure that all the cogs were greased, and you made sure that what they were moving for was something that was going to be creative, a creative vision that people were going to love. And so it was like, man, we realized at that moment, like we just gotta keep working together. I don't even care what.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
what a great way to put it too.
Yeah.
What a great way to put it. What a great way to put it. We just like, I don't care, whatever. Like we can go shopping and it's going to be fun, you know? And
as you usually do, drag me to the shopping mall
I do.
on Christmas Eve. You know?
Yeah, because I just want, I like to hang out with you. And it was so fun. So this is we're going to take a little detour.
Yeah.
Here's a 10-second story.
Yeah.
I went up, like I don't know where I was at. It was for a softball thing, and it was like an hour and a half away. And I left my laptop at the cabin up there or something to that effect.
Oh,
It was
yeah,
my
I
work
remember that,
laptop. And I'd come all the way back home. I'm like, where's my stuff? And my wife's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you said you grabbed my bag or whatever. And I'm not blaming her by any means. It's my stuff. But there was a miscommunication. And I was like, I have to drive back there right now. Right now. I have to drive back there. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. I don't want to do this. I'm calling Impulse. and at the time, you weren't like full-time content creation. You were still like full-time where we work. You know, a real job.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey,
a real job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all, well, you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
I was like, take the day off. You're like, what? And I told you the story. I'm like, come with me. Just do it. Just do it. Just say yes. Just say yes. And you're all, okay. And you took the day off. You came with me. It was amazing, man.
Can't say no to you. Oh man. Yeah, that was. So we bounced from a couple jobs together, right? I'm thinking of at least 3 at the moment, and I probably am forgetting some.
We did.
I mean,
we taught together.
The drumline thing, yeah. I didn't even count that. But we started to flex our technical muscles because we went to DeVry and got our degrees and stuff, and so we did a couple technology based jobs. But we did a few different jobs together. We kind of like followed each other. And the final one was you got in first, right, to a really big company.
Yep.
And your buddy had been working there and kind of got you in, and then you got me in, and then we were there together for over 15 years. Yeah. Sometimes we worked together on things, but mostly not. And I remember being sad about that, right? Because even like we worked at a credit card company earlier on, and we didn't ever really work together. And that obviously when we instructed together, that was good. But like you're saying, when we got our first job out of college, we were both headhunted because our senior project went very, very well. And there were headhunters there, and we were both recruited. And so I was very excited, but the company was not super, but you got to start somewhere. Yeah. And I remember being like, I don't want to be here. I do not want to be here. You know what I mean? It was making me crazy. And here's what's really crazy, dude, is that like you weren't there very long. You couldn't hang. Couldn't do it.
You were like, it was just the worst job ever. And so you left, but I had to stay until I found something better. I would use my lunch breaks to do interviews for other companies and all that stuff. And I ended up being at that company for what felt like 100 years. It was 17 months I was there. And I have that many months. That's how many years I've been at my current company.
Wow.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And what's crazy is when I finally got into this, this, like you said, it's a giant corporation. I don't know why we're so reluctant to say the name of it, but it's one of the biggest in the world from a chip manufacturer standpoint. And I remember when I interviewed, I did very, very well in the interview. And it's one of those things where I was like, I know I just got the job. You know what I mean? And it was a panel interview. And I did very well. And my brain was like, I'm in. And when I'm in, I'm getting them in. Like that, like that's my life's going to become about that. And what's funny, dude, is that I got hired, and so I got the badge, and then you came over to where I was. I had to stay at a different house for a few days out of the week because there were 12-hour shifts. So it was so far away, I almost fell asleep at the wheel one day. So I would stay with my brother, who was closer to the business, for 3 or 4 days and then come home. And you came over to hang out, and you looked on my bed, and there was my badge. And it was a very professional looking badge. And you looked at it and you said, you better get me one of those. That was so funny, dude. You pointed to, you said, you better get me one of those. And I said, I will.
Just put it on you.
I know that's what it was. I was like, I'm in, you're going to be in. So I remember I was like, I got to get these people to like me a little bit better before I start pitching. And it was, I think it was a week. It was like 1 week.
That's all it took. I expected longer too.
It was 1 week, and I just pushed. I was like, guys, here's the deal. I was like, you have to call him now. He's a huge asset. And if you don't, he's just going to be working for a company that we're competing against. You got to call him. And so I pushed. And I mean, come on, you got the interview, and obviously you smoked it, and then next thing you know, we're working together. But we never worked together.
I know.
We were such different roles.
I think we had like 1 or 2 projects together.
Yeah.
But it didn't stop us from having fun.
Yeah.
You know, like
oh boy, here we go.
You know, it's just a big corporation, a whole bunch of people in cubicles, a lot of older people, and then there's us new, you know, hires
Punks.
that come in as little, you know, not little kids. I mean, we're in our mid-20s, but we're still
we are wet behind the ears compared to
immature and yeah, pranks and all sorts of shenanigans. We won't get into detail about those today, but yeah, I mean, we worked together for like you said, over 15 years before I left. I'm partially still there.
Yeah,
but that was the time when we would actually have our lunches and have our like discussions about life and what we actually wanted to do. Right.
Yep.
And I think that was the beginning, right? We went to really healthy lunches now. Like we got a little bit older, so we realized like that we needed to start to improve the way we ate. So I think Monday was Barrow's Day.
Oh boy.
Tuesday was Taco Bell Day. Wednesday was Barrow's Day. I think we snuck in an Arby's Day in there as well.
So bad.
Yeah, we ate like absolute garbage. But anyway,
so bad.
It wasn't the end of the world because, you know,
so delicious. Do you remember we felt like coming back from lunch, just wanting to slip into a coma?
Terrible.
It was awful.
It was the absolute worst. But it's what started the path to where we're at now, though.
Yeah.
Because it was a day at, I believe, Taco Bell when, you know, we had just started playing Minecraft and stuff, right? Like somehow, I don't even remember how we got. I mean, my son started playing Minecraft, and so I was trying to help him and stuff with like that. But it was our buddy Joe, right, that brought up Minecraft.
First, my son's who I first heard about Minecraft from, and it was about 6 months to a year before that conversation. And my son, by the way, when he says, "Dad, I want you to try this or watch this show," he's right 100% of the time. He's always right. And I was like, I don't have time for games. I don't have time for games. And so he's like, just sit down and play it. So I played it, and I stopped after like 10 minutes. I'm like, I'm going to sink into this game.
Yeah.
And I just stopped, and I didn't touch it for all that time. And then Joe was just like, you guys, have you heard of Minecraft? I'm like, I have. That game is very addictive. Yeah. And then you gave it, you had the same thing. You're like, I don't have time for games. Right. You know what I mean? When it came to us, so your son telling you, and then you started playing, and boy, did you lean into it.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was, yeah, I mean, my son at the time, he was just getting into games, and so he was like, well, you know, what games can I play? And we were playing Battlefield. Remember?
Yes,
so
dude.
we were into games a little bit. We were playing Battlefield, and there's a whole nother topic there. But
yeah.
So you know, he had seen me playing this shooting game, and I'm like, no, dude, you're like 8 years old. You're not playing this shooting game. So that's when I was like, oh, that Minecraft game that Joe told us about.
Oh, okay.
You know, and so I was like, okay, let's get him that, you know, and plus my son had kind of expressed interest in wanting to be like an architect or some kind of construction type of person when he grows up. So I was like, perfect. He can build houses and stuff in the game. So I get it for him, and like the typical thing is like, this game's like, I don't know how to play this game. You know, you turn it on and you're like, what do I do now? And so YouTube had become a thing already, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to YouTube and figure out how to play Minecraft, you know. And sure enough, these videos come up, and I'm like, I could do this better. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of good things that I found, but at the same time, I'm like, I feel like I could do this better, you know.
Yeah.
And so that was like sitting in the back of my head, and so, you know, I thought for a minute after my son and I had played a few days together that like it might be kind of fun to record our experience playing Minecraft together, and just like whatever, just hit record and show our journey through Minecraft. And someday I'll look at it and it's just like a video archive. You know what I mean? Like we like kind of like Facebook. You know, you put stuff on Facebook. Hopefully someday it's like your picture album from the past. I thought of it that way. It's like a video archive of me and my son playing Minecraft. And so I just started doing that. I didn't expect anything of it. And after that, I think that's when we had our conversation at Taco Bell of like, hey, can we like do something with this YouTube thing? Yeah. Like, you probably remember better than I do exactly how that conversation went down.
It was you, me, and Joe were all thinking about it, and we were all kind of dancing about. And I remember Joe being a little bit more around, you know, we got to get an LLC, we got to think about tax forms, and there was a lot of reasons to be held up. And I remember being like, I just want to pull the trigger, but I got to be honest here. I don't have the bandwidth. I just don't have the bandwidth. It was still, my life still was actually crazy. Yeah. And I was like, I want to do it. All I know is I want to, man. I would love us to do a joint channel or whatever. And you and I are very similar in regards to pulling the trigger. And you had the bandwidth to pull the trigger. Not that you didn't have a ton of time, but you had the bandwidth to pull the trigger. And next thing I know, you did it. You just created a channel, and it was like you did it. Awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we just started making videos together. Actually, all three of us, and actually, and our buddy Brian as well. You know, like we were all just kind of making videos and playing around, and it just sort of turned into this. It was you know, it was clearly your channel. It had your name on it, but it was sort of like we had this like joint channel, and it just kind of got weird because I had my own series on it. And we had a Skizzleman Presents at one time. I think I did.
Who's the man with the plan?
Oh God, that was
Skizzleman. Lots of diamonds in hand. Skizzleman.
Okay, can I just say, not having a Discord delay is fantastic.
It is nice. It is nice. Yeah, we can sing together.
But I sang that as a joke, and you were recording it, and that became the intro to that series. And it was a chance for us to work together on something, you know. But I remember feeling this like, this certain, I don't know what to call it. I mean, it's not FOMO. It's whatever it is. I felt this like pain because I was like, every time we work together, all it is awesome. All that's going to come out the other side is going to be awesome. And if it sucks, we're going to find a way to make it better. We're going to do that every time. But I'm not delusional. I don't have the time he has. I just don't have it. I don't have the time he has. And so I don't want to hold him back. So when he starts to fly, I'm not going to stop him. You know what I mean? Just you go, man, do your thing. And boy, did you do that. You just, next thing I know, you're just pumping out videos. I'm like, what, how are you doing this? This is amazing. And it just kept that forward trajectory. You know what I mean? And I remember being just so thrilled. And I remember I got to like needle you a little bit because you know me. So here's the thing. I don't care who has an idea. I don't care who was first to think of something. That nobody cares. Who cares is who did it. Right. And so I didn't have the competency to do what you were doing, and I didn't have the bandwidth. I was missing two things, but I have a ton of ideas. And I remember being really big on one certain farm that I was like, you got to make this because nobody has made it. Just make this. Yeah. And we argued on it. You're like, it can't be done. I'm like, yes, it can. I know it can because you can. And not everybody can do it, but I know you can. I know you can. And dude, I don't know what happened. You wanted to shut me up or something, but you did it. And that video blew up.
That was it. That was the one. Yeah. You're right. I remember. Oh, it can't be done. And then I didn't sleep. I think for a week or something. And I'm lucky I didn't get fired because I remember at the time, for whatever reason, they had put me up in a desk in like a closet at work.
What do you mean for whatever reason? This is what the universe does for you.
Yeah. somehow at work, I had lost my cubicle and they put me in this like closet.
It was amazing.
So like nobody really knew where I was when I was at work, and I really didn't have, I guess, much to work on or something. So I was working on Minecraft.
Yeah. You got your job done.
It's okay now if they fire me.
No, you did what you were asked. You did.
Yeah. I got my work done. Yeah. But I was able to spend some extra time working on that, and I did finally get there, and it was a gold farm. Yeah. We won't say why you wanted it, but, not appropriate. So people can use their imaginations. Yeah. So I made a gold farm, and it ended up being really good. Like it was unique, and it was one of the best at the time.
Let's just pause for a second. This is so long ago that people what a gold farm is today is nothing. It's super. I mean, it's super. The mechanics are there for you. The mechanics were not there. You were not supposed to be able to create one, but you found a way to like go through the portals and go to unloaded chunks. And it was just like, what are you doing? Like, it's so like over my head, but super amazing.
I had to learn a lot of technical Minecraft stuff quickly, but that was it. That was really the launching point, because that video got picked up by a big YouTuber at the time, known as DocM77, who was doing his world tour Let's Play, and he used it, and he he's an awesome dude, so of course he was like, this is Impulse SV's design, link to his channel, go check it out. And next thing I know, I'm actually getting views and subscribers and stuff, and that's when it was like, oh, what do we do now with this? Because now I have a video that's like, it was my tutorial, right? Even though it was inspired by you pushing me. But then we also had all this other content, the Skizzleman Presents and stuff. And so we kind of like struggled with identity with the channel for a while. Yeah. As we were trying to like find our legs and figure out what we're going to do. Not like this podcast, I'm sure it's going to struggle for a while.
It's the same thing. Yeah. We're finding our way. Yeah. We're finding, when something happens, you just got to just accept it. Because I remember we were at work and you ran to my cube and you said, dude, it's happening right now. I said, what's happening? You're like, my channel. And in that day, it was like you hit 100 subs that day, and it was, I mean, you've gotten probably 300 subs since we started this podcast, but it was like 100 subs that day, and it was like a very, very big deal.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, oh, okay, this is awesome. That was such a cool moment. But like you said, we had this identity crisis in regards to what is this channel?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like it says Impulse on it, but I'm putting stuff on it, and I mean, I'm okay with us doing joint stuff, but I don't want to step on his toes. I'm all confused. You know what I mean? It was weird.
You even had a solo Skizz.
I did. Hardcore Skizz
on there.
Yeah.
For a while. And so, yeah, it was like we were both just trying to use the channel because it was just like a joint type thing. And then at one point, and it took us a long time. Like we did a lot of stuff together too. Our Naked and Scared series was like, that's another story again. How that came about, but like that was going for multiple seasons before you and I kind of had this idea that clicked, and we said, you know what? Like we've danced around the subject long enough. Like I think you said like you've put 90% of the work into this channel, so it feels weird to kind of like still act like we co-own it. And we came up with the idea, hey, let's just start a channel, a joint channel, Imp and Skizz. And if people are watching this podcast on YouTube, obviously you found it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And obviously you can see that because of you, we now have this amazing silver play button behind us that
Sitting
says
right next
Imp
to us.
and Skizz on it, which, by the way, I have your copy of that in the closet. You need to
Hey.
take home today. So, yeah, we each have one. So you'll have one in your office as well. And it's that's to be able to do that, like start from scratch and then know from the beginning this is what this identity is.
Yeah.
Was really nice. We learned our lessons and we knew it. Like anything we do together, it's Imp and Skizz. That's our brand.
That's it.
It's easy, right?
It's easy.
And you have your own channel as well.
I do. I have my own
you're
channel.
doing all your solo stuff, and yeah, I mean, we've just kind of like figured it out, know. And I think the most important part of it all was like that day where we were at Taco Bell talking about doing these channels, and we started to go down that rabbit hole of like, oh, what about money and bank accounts and taxes and LLCs and all this stuff, and we said, forget it, we'll figure that out and just pull the trigger.
Just do it.
Like that's the same thing we kind of did with this podcast. Like before we started recording today, we talked about, oh, do we need to write an outline of everything we're gonna like go over during the podcast? What do we end up doing?
We just went for it.
We delete.
We
wrote like 3 bullet points and deleted it and said,
go.
you know what? Let's just hit record and see what happens.
Yeah, because when we have that strength, right? Like if there's times for planning, there's times to just let go. There's time, But the bottom line is this: there is this saying. This is very apropos for this moment, and I swear I'm telling the truth right now. I swear. I heard this saying, and I'm sure several people have heard this before, but I heard it for the first time and only once several years ago, and it just hit a chord with me. It was amazing, and I'll say what it is in a second. But I hadn't heard it again, and I saw it today, this morning. It popped up today on the day we're doing our first podcast, and it is everyone has 2 lives, and this and the second one starts when you realize you only have one. And that was so like, look at my goosebumps.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? I got them for real. If you're on YouTube, there they are. It was. That was like, because I woke up this morning being pumped, like we're starting this podcast. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's why, like, things happen when you just make them happen. You just go make it happen. It's not going to always, roll out the way you want it to. But there's this is another line from I Love The Office, but there's always a million reasons why not to do something. All you need is one to do it. Just do it. If you want something and you want to move forward, if you want to sit there and talk about why you shouldn't, well, we've got plenty of time. There's lots of reasons not to do something. You want to do it or not? If the answer is yes, then just go do it.
Just do it.
Just go do it.
Yep.
And that's why I'm loving what we're doing here.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because there was the other thing. I was at peace. I don't know how you felt. I was at peace of saying, just hit record and let's go. And if it sucks, that's okay. We'll start over. We'll scrap it. You know what I mean?
Scrap it, learn from it.
Yeah.
Right? Like I get asked all the time, like, what's the best piece of advice you could give to somebody that's like starting off in this world, this content creation world that we're living in now? And I said, just go, like, just hit record and do that a lot.
Yeah.
Just make as much content as you can, because every piece of content you make, you're going to learn something from it. Well, hopefully you take time. You should take the time
Yeah.
to analyze it and learn from it, right? And just do it. Just do it over and over and over again. And the more you do it, the better you'll get, because we go back 10 years ago. Now we've been doing this for 10 years, by the way.
Jeez.
Yeah. 10 years ago to see like the YouTube video that we first did, and it wasn't good.
It was terrible.
First season, Naked and Scared.
So bad.
Very awkward. Very
so
not good.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 25 seasons later, feeling pretty good. Feeling like we're doing pretty well. We got good. Guess what? 10 more seasons from now, we'll probably come back to season 25 and be like, ooh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's a constant process of getting better and improving. And I would hope that this podcast will show that example once again. Like, this episode may be hopefully at least decent, but episode 10, you'll hopefully see some more progress.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
we'll sharpen things up.
100%, and that's because we're gonna listen back to this, or we're gonna watch the video, and we're gonna be like, we talked over too much, or I'm talking too fast, or our levels are off, or what are we talking about? You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna
I thought
come
we were
to that.
supposed to go 40 minutes. How are we at an hour?
I know. Everybody, please, be patient, because I'm hoping that this is gonna be a situation to where I do want that moment to happen. I want to be embarrassed by this episode. I want to be, because what that means is that we kept going. I'm not going to be embarrassed by this episode if we don't do this anymore. I'm going to be embarrassed about me. But if we keep going and we get to episode 10 or 20 or 30 or whatever, and I get to have an opportunity to look back at this one and be embarrassed, that's all gravy, baby. Like, I'm into that. You got to be. This is so, like, me, I'm a huge poker player. I love playing poker. And I talk to my brothers about this all the time. One of my favorite moments in poker is when I'm outplayed by somebody. And this is going to sound super arrogant. It's not that common. It's not that uncommon. I get beat, but it's typically like, they legitimately don't know what they're doing.
Cards, right.
But there's times where somebody legitimately outplays me. They read me. They knew what I was doing. They were ahead of me. And when those moments happen, those are my happiest moments in poker. I love being outplayed because it's a great poker moment, and I learned something huge in that moment. And this guy, he outplayed me a couple weeks ago. He put a serious bluff on me, and it was so well done. And when he showed me the bluff, he thought he was going to put me on tilt. I was going to be upset. I gave him the biggest high five, and it was weird for him. But I was like, dude, I love that.
Wow.
You know what I mean? But that's how you got to live your life, man.
Yeah. I mean, stay humble, right? And just realize everything is a learning experience. This is all a journey.
Yeah.
And it just so happens, like, right now we're at the very beginning of this one.
Yeah.
And we're not going to stop. We've already made that commitment to each other that no matter what happens when we publish this that you guys are listening to or watching right now, we're going to keep going.
Yes.
And see this thing through.
Yeah.
And so that's super exciting.
I don't care how many people say they hate it. No, we're definitely going to do it. So what I'm excited about moving forward is the fact that we have a bottomless pit of ideas in regards to all the different things. So we talked about it. We touched on it in the beginning.
Yeah, this was like a Cliff's Notes version of our journey of how we got here.
Yeah.
And there were so many points along the way where we said, we're going to have to save that one for later because this could easily have ended up being a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So we'll take a bunch of those experiences and really can dive into some of those because each one actually had, something that we learned some valuable lessons from. And one thing I'm hoping to have this podcast do is have people learn from some of the experiences we had and maybe save some people or maybe help people that are going through some of the things we went through realize that this is normal. And it's like you said, like sometimes getting beat is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes putting out something that's less quality than you wanted is a good thing. It's a chance to learn and grow. So, hopefully we can help people learn and grow from our experiences as well. That's what I want to do.
We're getting up there in years. Let's just call it what it is. We have a lot of experience. We can talk about the parenting thing. We can talk about the art of work. We can talk about education. We can talk about all the things that we have actual traction underneath our feet on. Content creation being another one of them.
Yeah.
Friendship being one of them. It's not like I've never upset you. You know what I mean? It's not like you've never upset me. You know what I mean? Like we said, we're very, very different people, but what is proper friendship? We can talk about marriage. We can talk about, there's so much experience that we have. And what is the commonality is that we both have an equal passion for sharing and helping a little bit. We both like to do that. You know what I mean? We both enjoy when it's like, oh, hold on, don't fall in that hole. I fell in that hole. It sucks.
Yeah.
Let me teach you how to avoid that hole.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. That'd be great to help others learn from our mistakes. So yeah, that's the goal of the show.
Yeah.
And I don't know what people got out of this one other than just a history of us, I suppose, and what we're aiming to do with this. I suppose that's enough for episode 1.
Yep.
So it's been a fun one. I don't know what people do with podcasts.
I don't know.
Like button, subscribe. I don't.
High five yourself.
Yeah. Tell your friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Tell your friends. That's the one. Tell all your friends.
Yeah.
About
Have them come check out the podcast on whatever platform you happen to find us on. I think we're gonna try to get it on YouTube and Spotify and Apple and Amazon, whatever.
Unpack that. That is a testament that we pull triggers. We don't even know what platforms we're going to land on.
Whatever one you found us on right now, that's where we landed.
We did hit record, right?
I see red lights. One thing that did go wrong during this podcast, since we're pulling back the curtain, is we do have a monitor that told us how long we were recording for, and it shut off.
Yeah.
And so we have no idea at this point.
I have no idea. If I had to guess, I'd say it's just over 35 minutes. I really don't know. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's about what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
So that's not bad. But I think we did the job today. That's what we wanted to do.
Yeah. I enjoyed it, and this is just another opportunity for me to work with my best buddy.
Right.
And I'm excited for what we're going to do. I'm excited for what we're going to give. And I hope it's well received. And if it's not, well, I'm fine with that too.
Exactly. No, this has been super fun. I'm looking forward to hopefully doing this every week.
Yeah. Every week, man.
Nice.
See you next time.
All right. See you.